Hope you have followed our lesson so far. Now today we are going to learn how to represent algorithms using pseudocodes. We have learned so far the control structures, sequence and selection. Today we will learn how to represent an algorithm using pseudocodes, and we will be using the control structure repetition. Now when we implement repetition structure, there are normally we can classify it into three ways. Look at the diagram. Sometimes we know the number of times we are going to repeat a thing. Think of an example. Sometimes the teacher asks you to write, I will do homework 25 times. So you know how many times we are going to write that sentence. So you write the first one, then you count only one. I have to write 24. So you will be writing one by one until you have written 25 lines. So you know the number of times you have to repeat a certain tasks. So and also you are going to check, do I have is the written number of lines is over 25 or is it less than 25? You have to check. You are checking. It is less. If it is less than 25, you will write again. So to implement these types of repetition, we use for structure. We call that as for loop. We use for loop. And also there are certain other times you may know the number of times or you may don't know the number of times. Suppose you are given a bag full of toffees. So you are going to ask, you are asked to count the number of, where we will imagine the wrappers are colored wrappers. So you are going to count the number of wrappers which have red wrappers. So you have only the bag with you. So you put your hand and take one out. Then you see whether it is red. If it is red, you count that. If it is any other color, you won't count it. So in those kind of instances, you don't know the number of times to be repeated. It can be executed or it can be controlled. The condition, I am referring to the condition. Sometimes you can follow the repetition if the condition is true. Normally for that instances we use the structure while, and if your condition is evaluates to false, you repeat a task checking the condition. If the condition is false, you are going to repeat a task. You can use the structure until. Today we will learn these three structures and how to implement these structures as pseudocodes. Okay. First, now this is the first instance I am going to talk. Now look at the flow chart. You are given a flow chart. Now let's go from the beginning. It's start, and here the question is you have to write Sri Lanka 5 times. You have to display Sri Lanka 5 times. Now first I have put n equals 1. So in my first attempt I am assigning 1 to the variable n. So n equals 1. Then I am checking whether n is less than or equal 5, because I have to check whether I have written 5 times Sri Lanka 5 times. So I have my condition there. I have selected n less than or equal 5. If n is less than or equal 5, I am going to display Sri Lanka. Then first instance I have displayed Sri Lanka only once. So my n, usually we call this n as a counter. It is counting whether it is 1, 2, 3, 4. It is counting because in this type of a question we know we have to write only 5 times. Beforehand we know the number of times to be repeated. So I am checking first, second, third, and when I move on to 5, I will stop writing Sri Lanka, displaying Sri Lanka. So I have to increment my counter by 1. At the initial step I have written once. Now I have to add 1 to n because I have to increase n to n by 1. So then it will be 2. So we will look at the pseudocode. First we will start the pseudocode by begin. Now I have my counter, and here remember children, normally if we exactly know the number of times we can use this for structure. Now this is the way we use the for structure. So for n equals 1, and I know when to stop. N equals 1 to 5. I have written it. Then do what? For n equals 1 to 5 display Sri Lanka. Then I have indicated this n equals n plus 1 by next n, because every time, once you display Sri Lanka, you have to increment n by 1. So this is the end of it. And also I can tell you now here, next n equals n plus 1 is indicated by next n, and also here these two structures n equals 1 and n is less than or equal 5, it is indicated by this for n equals 1 to 5. These two structures, these two, they are in the pseudocode. In the flowchart you have to indicate it using symbols. In the pseudocode you are going to indicate it using text. So you have to say I start from 1 and I will go until I meet 5. I will write it 5 times. Then initially my n is 1. I will display Sri Lanka once. Then I will increment n by 1. Then I will go. This is the loop. This is the loop. So here in this is the loop. This is the loop. Now this loop will work when n is, it checks when n is less than or equal 5, it is yes, it will go on till this becomes false. So we tell that for loop, in the for loop, the loop will execute if the condition is true, or if it says yes, we have to go on. When it becomes false, the loop will stop and jump out of it. So this is the way we write a pseudocode to represent this for structure.